some positivity, some positive words, encouragement, and quite frankly, we could all use a little bit of that, myself included. So as much as I'm talking to you, I'm talking to myself as well. So kick back, lay back, sit back, and relax, and listen to the soothing sounds. Let the whispers guide you to sleep. Maybe 2022 isn't starting off the way you thought it would. Maybe things are a little bit more complicated, and that's okay. Sometimes life takes us on detours, and sometimes they last longer than we expect or we hope. But as I've mentioned before, life is in itself just a trip. And you wouldn't try to rush from one point to another if you actually paid attention to the scenery around you. So why do we want to rush through all of the parts of life just because they're uncomfortable, right? I know it's easier said than done. I don't want to stay in anxiety. I don't want to stay in panic. I don't want to stay in brain fog, but at the same time, I have lived long enough to understand that sometimes you look back on these rougher times and you just have to shake your head in disbelief or appreciation or gratitude or happiness that you're not there anymore after some time has passed. It's not always easy to see the path forward, but that's why you don't look at the path, you just look down at your feet and take it one step at a time. that's a huge blow to the gut. So, all of these things are going on all at the same time, and, I don't know how I'm gonna get out of it at this point. Like, I remember just being too dizzy to be able to focus on anything, and being at work and constantly checking my eyes to see if they were yellow, because I felt like maybe I had jaundice, and, all these crazy things are going on. So, but remember, a year and a half, how long does that seem? Like an eternity if you're existing like that. But if you fast forward 18 months from there, and I mean, it was a journey, it didn't just happen overnight. I mean, some things did in the sense that, like, I let go of everything. I let go of the pain I was holding on to, and I let go of the worry and the fear and the depression. It just all kind of went away in a night. I went to bed and I woke up. But from that point, months later, I found myself miles away from here, miles away from my home state, on a stage, under lights, in front of an audience, in New York City, in a play. How long is 18 months, really? And what can happen inside of 18 months or less? Oftentimes less. And the funny thing is, when I think back on that time, I don't even think of, like, what the journey was like in that sense. Excuse me. I don't even think of, like, the hard climb upward, because honestly, the drastic change in lifestyle and situation just outweighs, for me, all of the struggle, because that's what I chose to focus on. I chose to focus on the changes for the better, instead of constantly staying in this place of why me, and this can only happen to me, and it's really easy to fall into that trap. It's like when I was in my apartment, there were these, it was a sequence of 3 different stoplights near my apartment, and I always had in my head that, like, I always catch these lights. And over the 3.5 years I lived there, it became, toward the end of this past summer, right before I started to lose it again, I was, like, convinced that the universe was against me. It's just like, something's out to get me, because I always catch these lights. Always, always, always. And I never took notice of, like, when I didn't catch the light, when I made the light. Especially the one that was the closest to my place, because in order to get that light, you have to go through the neighborhood and then make a right turn onto the main road. So it's a timing thing. It has nothing to do with the timing of the lights themselves. Like, for instance, if I caught that light, I would inevitably catch the next light because of the way that the traffic lights are timed. But that one particular light was about my timing, my sense of timing. And for some reason, no matter what time of the day I left my place, I would always catch that light. It would not matter. And if I tried to go the other way through the neighborhood and be on the other side of the light to turn right at the light instead of going straight through it, I would catch it. I would catch it, and I'd have to sit there before making that right turn. So I was convinced in my mind somewhere that the universe was out to get me. And when you're stuck in that victimhood mentality, when you think that the universe itself has its foot on your throat, it's hard enough when we think society or our parents or our loved ones or anybody doesn't understand, or they're holding us back. But if we think that the world itself, the universe itself, we are so important, we matter so much, that the universe or God or whoever wants to take time out of their day just to shovel things into your mouth and to make your situation worse. Is that really how it is, or is that how we perceive it? things. And what's funny is, it wasn't always a struggle for me. I honestly, for the longest time, wasn't concerned with the unknown. I didn't find it, for the longest time, I didn't find it exciting or terrifying. It just was. And then for a while, the unknown was exciting. That's the joy. It's like not knowing where I'm going to be, what I'm going to be doing, where I'm going to be in a year's time. But as never stop